Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a tiger look like this, kind of paint blotchy and add in some different colors and kind of do an abstract effect in Photoshop. And to do that, we're going to get started. I'm just going to go ahead and go to my history panel right here, and let's scroll up, and we're going to go right back to the beginning. Alright, from the beginning, here's what we're going to do. We are first going to create a brand new layer with nothing on it. So we'll go down to the bottom of the layers palette, click on the new layer button. After we've done that, we're going to go ahead and fill that color in, so I can go over to the paint bucket tool, which is located here. Also looks like the gradient tool, okay, but we're going to go paint bucket tool, or you can hit G on your keyboard. Then I want to make sure that I have white selected. So if I don't know what colors I have in my foreground and background, you can go ahead and click on the shortcut. It'll automatically make them black and white. Hit X, now I've got white. So I can click. Okay, so now I've got my white picture here. Now I want to move this layer 1 down to the very bottom. So the way that I'm going to do that, I'll go ahead and relabel this just by double clicking on it. So we'll go white background. Okay, then what I can do is I can hold the Alt key and then double click on my background layer, and that will unlock the layer. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just going to click and hold on my layer 0, move that up to the top, and then we're going to take our tiger. All right, I'm going to go ahead and label this here, so I got my original picture, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the tiger's head. Okay, that's like the main part about this picture that I'm trying to draw out of it. So to do that, what I can do is I'm going to add a mask, and once I add my mask, I'll go ahead and grab my paintbrush tool, so click on B on the keyboard, and then after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and this just has to be like a rough cut. It's not going to be like exact. And I've got some other options here that I don't want, so let's go ahead and make sure I got my opacity up all the way. Alright, and I'm just going to kind of circle around our tiger here and just get as best as I can around him, so that way we can see kind of what's going on in our picture. Okay, and we're going to tune this up later, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but this definitely helps if we just eliminate some of this extra stuff in the background, because we're going to do some kind of weird stuff to our picture here that'll make it a little bit tricky to see what it was originally that you were trying to cut out. So as I grab all this stuff, okay, I'd say we're looking pretty good right about there. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so now that I've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a weird move where I'm going to go up to Image, I'm going to go to Adjustments, then I'm going to go to Threshold. Okay, once I select that, then we're going to go ahead and click on our picture here, and I actually accidentally selected that with the mask on, so I'm going to go back here, make sure that I have my layer selected, my layer thumbnail, then I'm going to go back to Image, Adjustments, Threshold. Okay, now after I get that, I'll get this window that's going to pop up, and we can adjust how much detail we want to shine through. Okay, so we go too much, it's going to be like that, so we got to find our nice spot where we get the detail that we want out of the picture. That looks pretty good in there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Alright, and now that I've got that, we're going to take all of the black information out of this image right here, and we're going to put it on a new layer, and this is going to help us out later, and you'll see why. But right now this is in this like full layer, and I want to just extract just the color black out of this whole section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to we're going to go up to Select, and then I'm going to do Color Range, and then I'm just going to go ahead and you'll get a window that pops up like this. It's going to say Sampled Colors. I'm going to click on the black here, okay, and I can adjust my fuzziness to get, you know, the shades that I want. So let's say I have that boosted up so it's grabbing all the shades of black that it sees in the picture. Then I can go ahead and click OK, and that's going to turn all of that black into a new selection. Okay, now I'm going to create a new layer, and in that new layer I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool again, and this time I'm going to make sure that I paint black. Okay, so I went ahead and clicked on my foreground color, dragged all the way down to the corner there, and you don't have to necessarily use black, but I'm just going to use it in this case. So now that I've got that, we're going to do Command and D, which is going to get rid of my selection. Let's go ahead and turn off this other layer here. So this is what we had, okay? And then if I turn off this layer, you can see that now we've just taken just the black out. We've left everything else, so it's transparent behind it, which is going to make it really easy for us to add in some other kind of effects. Now that I've got this all set up, I'm going to leave this tiger layer off, okay? And then If there's any areas that you find that you need to like kind of darken up or do anything with, you can go ahead and do. Sometimes if you have somebody's hair, they'll have a bunch of like little blips in there because it's different shades and stuff. But it's up to you. You can just go ahead and grab your paintbrush tool and fill that in. In this case, I think this is fine the way that it is. So I'm just going to create another new layer. Okay, and in my another new layer, this is where we're going to do all of our splatters. Okay, so this is gonna, we'll just call this like our tiger black copy. Okay, so we got all the information out there, and then this is going to be our splatters. Okay, now with the splatters, here's what we're gonna do. We need to import some brushes into Photoshop. Okay, now I went ahead and downloaded these already, and I have them right here. So if I double click on these brushes right here, and I'll have a link to where you can download them on the video. But if I do that, it's going to relaunch up Photoshop. Nothing happens, okay, and that's fine. What happened was we just installed those brushes using that .abr file into Photoshop, and so what you're going to do now is we can go to our brush tool, so I'll hit B on the keyboard, and then there's two ways that you can find this. It just kind of depends on how Photoshop feels like treating you this day. Sometimes you get great luck, and I'll just click on the down arrow up here, and I can scroll down to the bottom, and then you'll see that I've got all of these brushes that are around like 2500 pixels, okay? And these are all the newly installed brushes. And now I think by default Photoshop's supposed to be able to put these right in a quick, easy way for you to get to them, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So if you don't see these brushes in here, then what you can do is you can open up your brush palette, which is the button right here. Okay, so go ahead and click on that, and then this window will launch up. And I found whenever I install these, they go and they get filled in about 2/3 of the way down. Okay, and so if I scroll down, you can see right here now, you see I'm about 2/3 of the way down here. So we've got all these 2500 pixel sized brushes, which are all these ink splatters that somebody else did and created a brush out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start selecting those brushes. So let's say I take like this one right here, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize this window. I could go over to the side here and I get a preview of how big this is. Now these are really big brushes, so if you don't see it, you might need to change your brush size. But if I do that, and let's say I go right across the top, I'm just going to do a single click. Okay, so I'll do a single click like this. All right, and that'll just go like straight across the top there. Don't click and hold. It's going to repeat these like splatters over and over and over, and that's going to kind of create some problems. So I can go back to my brush palette. I'm going to choose a completely different brush now. All right, and let's say I grab like that out the side there, and then I'm going to use another one, and I could even like rotate it so it kind of lines up a little bit better with what I'm doing here. So like if I go right about there, let's say, okay, then I can get some, oops, I actually want to scoot that in just a little bit farther. I'm trying to cover up some of like those like dark leftover spots on my picture, and then I can go here, and I could go ahead and try, and I know this one's going to be more vertical, so I'm going to rotate that around so it's more horizontal, and click on that like that. And then let's go back to this guy right here, and you know, I might rotate him a little bit like that. Let's put this away, see how that looks. So if I took that right along the edge there, I need to rotate it just a little bit more. Kind of lose my mouse when I do that. Let's go a little bit like that, and I'll go right along that line right there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go back, get a couple more brushes. Okay, now it helps if you make sure that you keep on selecting different patterns, because if we keep repeating the same splatters over and over again, your eye's going to catch on to it really, really fast. So it helps if we try and randomize this as much as possible. So I'll go here like that, and we'll go up around like that, and then you know, you can try throwing in some extra ones. I accidentally clicked again there. Let's try just selecting one more random one. I'll go back to this one, and I'm just going to completely flip it the opposite way, so that way it doesn't look like the exact same thing in our picture there. Okay, so let's say I do that, and let's say I do that like there. Okay, now I've got my tiger surrounded, and we've got all of our splatters and everything that's going everywhere. We need to clean this up a little bit, okay? And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to grab my eraser tool, and it has to be the eraser tool. We can't do a mask for this, and you'll see why, and the method that we use to combine all these layers together later. But I'm going to take the eraser tool, and then I'm just going to clean up these areas that I feel like, you know, I want like the tiger stripes to kind of shine through a little bit. So I'll clean these up. Okay, so that way he shines through normal. All right, and we'll do that and there like that. Okay, and I don't want to touch the ears too much, otherwise that might be a little too obvious, but whatever, we'll just do it for this one. Okay, so I keep going there. Whoops, too much. Just gonna do Apple Z or Command Z to get rid of that and go back a step. Okay, so now I've got all of this stuff set up. So I got splatters kind of going everywhere and everything. We kind of see the tiger inside of it. Now is going to be kind of the weird thing. So we're going to get a texture. Okay, and that texture can be, you know, all kinds of different things, but in this case, let's see, where did I have that located? I need to reopen up that file. I'm going to do Command O, and then I'm going to go find that file that I want to use, and you can find your own texture layer. In this case, I just want something that's got kind of light and dark, that's kind of going back and forth. Cement kind of looks really cool and all that kind of stuff. Just depends on what you can find. If you just Google textures, you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff that you could use. So I'm going to click and drag this over using the move tool and then drop it, and I want to resize it to be the size of my picture, the entire picture. Now I don't care about keeping it proportional right now because it's just a texture, so it doesn't really matter too much. After I resize it, I'm going to hit enter. Okay, now is going to be the weird part. We're going to take the information from these two layers. Okay, now remember, these are separate layers, so we've got this tiger layer and we've got these splatters on this other layer, and we're going to make it so that they mask out this portion of the texture. Okay, so I'm going to go to label that right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is first I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to click on the layer thumbnail for the tiger black copy layer. Okay, now this turns us into a selection. Now we're going to add to that by doing Command and Shift at the same time, and you'll see on the, if I hover over the layer thumbnail, it's going to have a little plus sign into it. So now it's not just going to turn into a selection, it's going to add to that selection. So Command Shift, click on the splatter layer, and it grabs all that information. Now it's condensed it into one layer that I can get information from. So I'm going to take that, and now we're going to select our texture layer up at the top. So I did the Command, then Command Shift, have both of those selected, click on the texture layer, and now I'm going to click on the Quick Mask button, and then it's going to mask that texture so it only shows up where I had those other selections and everything. So I can turn these layers off now if I want to, and you can see kind of what we have. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, okay, and we're just going to put like one final touch on this. I'm going to add a little color to it. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select my my layer thumbnail for my texture layer, which means I'm going to actually draw on the layer itself. Then I'm going to go over to my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to switch to the gradient tool. So I switch on that tool right there, and then you can create your own gradients, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So like, let's say I just click on one of these gradients, then, you know, right now if I wanted to draw with it, it's going to create a red and green. In this case, I'm going to want to change it to a couple different colors, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to click it down here, and then just real quick, you can see you've got your color here, and then you've got your opacity here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in here, and let's say I wanted to add in like a yellow, then I could totally do that. Click OK, and now I go red to yellow to green. I can move that over here. I could click again. I could add a totally different color if I wanted to. Let's say I wanted like this bright blue, then I could totally do that. Okay. You can choose whatever you want and kind of scoot those around, and if you ever get really messed up, just click on a different one. And if you want to see how they faded colors and did some other stuff, then select some of these other options and they'll show you how to do that. But you can see that you've got color, you've got location, and then you can also click up here and you can change opacity. So if I wanted that to be a lower opacity, then I can do that, but I want to leave it 100 right now. So now that I've got all that selected, I'm going to click OK, and then we're going to change our blend mode for this gradient effect. Okay, so I've got all my colors and everything. If I click and drag and draw right now, it's going to overwrite my texture, and I'm not going to see any of that information. But if I switch this to, let's say, overlay, then it's only going to show the colors a lot in the lighter areas of the texture, which kind of gives an interesting look. So if I now click and drag and drop, then it fills in those areas, and I can do Command Z. I could try it from over here. Okay, try it going this way. All right, and depending on however you want to do it, you can organize it. Okay, I think 4 colors is too much. Let's just try like the red and green, and we'll do the same thing. So I click and drag over there. Kind of just adds a little bit of something to it. Okay, just be careful that you have this option selected and you don't have any of these others. They kind of produce some different results, and you can try them out. But in this case, I think it kind of works out best if you go from point to point like this. Now, also make sure that when you're using the gradient tool that you don't just like click a little bit, otherwise you're going to have this hard line that'll go straight through your picture because it's a transition from one color to the next. So I like to click from one spot and then drag across to the other. So I also don't like to do it repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, because it ends up kind of destroying that whole picture and the look and everything like that. So after we do that, that one looks kind of cool, right? Okay, so we'll go from here to there like that, and then hey, you're all done. Kind of a cool effect. All right, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a tiger look like this, kind of paint blotchy, and add in some different colors and kind of do an abstract effect in Photoshop. And to do that, we're going to get started. I'm just going to go ahead and go to my history panel right here, and let's scroll up, and we're going to go right back to the beginning.